yeah, growing up, I left home when I was 10. So like I had to kind of, I guess that is a cancer trait, but put on your, your wall, your protection, your armor, and just keep going. And that was my motto, was just keep going, just keep going, just keep going. And yeah, I never really showed emotion as a kid. And then about 3 years ago, I just like broke open. And now I can't stop crying. So, and I'm happy about it.
Really running a lot of parallel paths in our lives. I believe that each and every one of us has the power within ourselves to create the life that we really want. And I want to help give you the tools to make that happen. I'm Danica Patrick, and I'm pretty intense. On the show today is the beautiful Julianne Hough. She's a dancer, actress, singer, songwriter, and the creator of a new and amazing mind-body connective practice called Kinergy, which I've done, and I find it to be actually really amazing. But today we talked a lot about the journey, depth, and sometimes difficulty and pain. I would call her a fellow seeker. There's always there's a burning desire to go deeper, to know more, and to become a truer sense of herself. It was just a beautiful conversation that flowed effortlessly. And I'm going to say she's my friend now. I think we need to go wake surfing.
Yeah.
Have you been wake surfing a lot?
So I grew up on the lake in Idaho, and then...
Is that why you have your mountain home out there?
Yeah.
Cool.
My dad grew up there, and then and then I bought a place there 6 years ago, and it's just been like home.
I've heard that's beautiful out there.
Beautiful.
I mean,
I've crystalline energy too. It's just it's bright, and yeah.
You said crystals.
I know, right? Whereas like Arizona is a little more like dense, or Utah or whatever just feels a little bit more like.
It's true.
Whereas this just was like you feel really high.
Yeah, it is heavy rock. It's like rock.
Yeah, which is great. I love that too. But this feels more like bright.
Is the water cold?
Freezing. Especially just now. I did it in a wetsuit like 3 weeks ago, and it was 50 something degrees. Yeah, it's cold.
Do you have an aversion to cold?
I don't love the cold, but I also just love the adrenaline. So I'm down to do whatever. I love risk. So
yeah, well, we have that in common then. What is it? What's your relationship with risk? Like, why? What does it do to you?
I don't know. If I'm scared to do something, I usually it means that I have to do it.
That's how I feel.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And I used to be so much more of a daredevil as a kid, and then I've like really chilled out over the last few years, and I'm like, I think I need to like find that again, because it translates, I think, into work too. And relationships and everything. And I'm like, okay, so I just got to go do some shit that scares me, and then I'll be cool. I can like have the confidence for work stuff that I want to have a little bit more confidence in.
Really?
So, yeah. Yeah.
That's, I find that
put me in a
I'm
car.
the opposite. Yeah. Obviously we should go to the racetrack, go wake surfing. There's probably a list of things. Jump out of a plane. It was the opposite for me. I realized that, what motivated me in racing was, it's not just one single thing, but I really love pushing that boundary.
Yeah.
And so really what I loved about it was getting uncomfortable and sort of getting up against that all the time. So just what you're saying. And so while I was racing, I didn't like to do anything crazy otherwise. I actually would have been called not brave.
Yeah.
And since I've stopped racing, now I'm
There's more freedom.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
What else do you do that's not brave?
Yeah.
Well, hang on. I mean, like, because there's like brave as in like physical.
Yeah.
But then to me, you also partake in the brave emotional.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, for me, I'm a Cancer. So like I've always been known to be emotional, but I actually never showed that. I am the baby of 5. And so growing up, I was sort of like the responsible one, even though I was the baby. I was kind of like taking care of everybody, making sure everybody was good. And then, growing up, I left home when I was 10. So like I had to kind of, I guess that is a Cancer trait, but put on your, your wall, your protection, your armor, and just keep going. And that was my motto, was just keep going, just keep going, just keep going. And I never really showed emotion as a kid. And then about 3 years ago, I just like broke open. And now I can't stop crying. So, and I'm happy about it.
Really running a lot of parallel paths in our lives. What did you leave home for at 10?
I moved to London. Yeah, I moved to London and lived with my dance coaches there. I was only supposed to stay for 3 months, and then it ended up being 5 years.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's, yeah, that's incredible. Because people, I lived in England for 3 years too, when I was 16 though. And people would still say like, that's crazy. So what'd you do about school?
I went to performing arts school.
Oh.
So I got a scholarship to go to school. I danced with my coach's son. Yeah, it was weird because, again, as a kid, I was so much more mature than I am now, I think. I, like, had my shit together, you know? And even as a kid, I look back and everybody was cool with me going to London. I look at my nieces and nephews now who are 13 and I'm like, I wouldn't put you on, you know, a bus by yourself.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
I want to see where you're riding your bicycle.
Exactly. And it's like, how did that even happen? But, you know, it's part of the course, I guess. But yeah, it was definitely an intense living situation too, because I was 10, I moved there. I went to, you know, school all day long, and then we would practice and, you know, till 11 o'clock at night. And then we would compete on the weekends and travel all over Europe. And so, and like, I would have all the fake tan because ballroom and Latin dancing, you know, fake tan, the long red nails, like the whole thing. And it was quite confusing because I was 10, but I was kind of overtly like mature and sexualized as a kid and like dancing, and it's, you know, but it was very much in my nature to be that naturally, but it was embraced and celebrated. And so the more I did it, the more I was rewarded by it. But then it was confusing because then being a kid where I just wanted to like play Barbies and hang out.
Yeah, that's what I was doing.
You know, like I didn't do that. And so I really felt like, not that I lost my childhood, it was just a different kind of childhood. And so now I'm like, I'm playing with Barbies now. No, I'm just kidding.
Do you feel like you're reclaiming it? Because I do think that there's something to incorporating every phase of traditional sort of growing up that ends up happening. And it's not always in order.
No, I went back to my 10-year-old self when I was 25. And I kind of like lived in that 10-year-old phase and like kind of grew up basically from like 25 to like 28. And then 28, something shifted. 29, it was like, I broke, like my like emotions started coming out. And I was like, this is me as a woman. This isn't little Julianne running the show anymore. This is me as a woman. And I'm completely different. And I'm totally petrified that nobody's going to like this version. Because the hard ass that started when I was like 18, because I was like this really mature, got my shit together kind of girl, went into that like little girl from like 18 to 25, then 25 to like 29. And then it was like just a whole new layer of I think who I am now, and dropping into more of the woman in me. And nobody had really experienced that part. I hadn't even. This was totally new. So the safety and the comfort zone kind of just went away.
So you said that you were more mature, you thought, when you went to England when you were 10. What does that mean?
Well, clearly not more mature, just more guarded.
So it was a mask.
Yeah, 100%.
So then you still had to, that makes sense.
Just protection. You know, it's the fight or flight thing. It was like, I'm going to fight and I'm going to just do what I can to survive this situation. And not that it was bad, but it's definitely not normal for a 10-year-old.
Yeah.
There's so much I've been unpacking. 2020's been, for everybody, it's been big, but there's been a lot of things that have happened, and really uncovering what makes us who we are today, and like what gives us where do our triggers come from? Why do we end up projecting or putting a mask up, you know, for certain situations, guarding? Some people self-sabotage, some people cling, some people fear abandonment. And like, it ends up being a really therapeutic process, but you realize it all comes from childhood.
Oh, 100%. I mean, everything. And I've done so much work energetically. I've done so much work emotionally, all that stuff.
I've seen it. It's amazing. I love that you show people those other modalities.
Yeah. I think I'm a feeler. Like, my whole motto is like, I feel. And that's how I articulate what I'm going through is my feeling and my expression first, and then I find my words. And so the movement, the dance, the crying, the energy work, all that stuff to me is so natural, and it's like, oh, this is my language. But I just started talk therapy like for the first time ever. And that has been so interesting for me because, I know it's like all my compartmentalization that I'm so good at and have been doing for 25 years just when all the walls came down. It was just like a flood of everything.
You say the words.
Oh yeah. When you say it, it becomes real and it's a reality. And then you're like, oh my gosh, there's been a through line of my behavior, my like, not even behavior, that's even a strong word to use, but of why.
Your pattern.
Yeah, of why you are the way you are,
Sure.
and why you do the things that you do, not just the situation that happened and then release it. You know, like I've been very good to like acknowledge and then like release and move forward instead of being like, oh no, I kind of actually need to carry this with me a little bit just for the time being to understand the reason why I feel abandonment and betrayal and why it's so heavy and why it's like the minute I feel it, I go whoop, and like you can't get in here at all if I feel that tiniest little bit. And this whole year
so you
has been that.
Have a fear of abandonment, yet you put the wall up too?
Abandonment and betrayal. The thing that I don't want, I completely protect myself from even getting.
Yeah, you kind of self-sabotage in a way because when you put the wall up, you kind of might get abandoned.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh man, it's so hard to unpack all this crap, but it's so. But I feel like this year more so than ever, like, you know, we're fellow hippies. I want to know how you got into your hippieism, and where it originated and what your first memories of it were. But timelines feel so accelerated this year. Yeah, like a decision or something that's going on with yourself or with emotions or society. Like everything's going so fast. Yeah. So fast.
I think it's because there's actually space. Like, usually we're just on like the hamster wheel and we're just going. And so we just procrastinate, I think, the things that are actually clawing at us. We just kind of let it drag on. Whereas like there's been so much space that you're like sitting with it so much more clearly. Yeah. And you're like, okay, this is not what I want anymore. And like, I'm not gonna sit in the shit. Like, ooh, this is, life is precious. Life is short, and it's long. Like,
well, when it's not good, it's long, right? And when it's good, it flies by.
Yeah.
What's the thing that you're like, I'm never doing this anymore? Like, I learned my lesson. I got this one.
I learned my lesson until the next time.
That's fine. I heard this expression, new level, new devil.
Yeah.
So sometimes you go a little deeper and it kind of shows itself in a new way, right? Like the journey's never over. Yeah. It's just how do you get to a place where, for me, it's like I'm feeling like my heart's broken open so that I actually feel more pain. Yeah. Oh, but I actually feel way more joy too.
Yeah. I talk about it as like the pendulum swing. It's like we've been so right here and like, this is just like the range. And it's like, oh, I feel all of it now. And I sometimes I'm like, oh, the red pill or the blue pill. I'm like, can I go back? I just sometimes don't want to feel
we
all
do like
of it.
Weekdays with one and the weekends with the other. We should develop that.
Yeah. It's been a range for sure. I feel the grief this year. There's been a lot of grief. I think just the opposition of love is grief. And so like to be able to experience it and feel it, now I've grown in my empathy, which I've always been able to have compassion for people and like I feel for them, but to actually have empathy, I thought I had, but until this year, I don't really think I had reached that level.
Do you remember was there something that happened that it hit you? It sat with you?
Yeah. So going through my separation, my mom and my oldest sister, they both got divorced, and there were situations within family that they didn't feel supported. And I was one of those people that they didn't feel supported by. And I was like, but I was there the whole time. Like, what do you mean? I was there if you needed me. And I realized now, being in my own separation, I was like, wow, it's not about just somebody being there, like physically. Like, it's really about like reaching out, not just saying I'm here if you need me, but like let me think about being in that person's shoes, knowing my sister, she's not going to reach out. So like, let me go surprise her, bring her some food, or like, let me go like, I don't know, do something that speaks her language. And I never did that for my sister. And I remember just like calling her up and crying and being like, I am so sorry. I thought I was there for you because I was in my own way, like saying like, I don't know, possibly judging, but also just being like, yeah, I'm doing the best that I can. I'm thinking about myself, not thinking about her at all. And so I remember calling her up and I'm like, I'm so sorry. I apologize. I will never not be there for you ever again. And so there's a lot of, I will never not do that, that I've learned this year because of my own experience.
What else would you never not do again?
Abandon myself. And I think that that's a little bit of the abandonment betrayal of like the fear from others when it's actually really from myself, because I'm so afraid to lose myself within people now and situations and work, and because I'm so good at giving. And I don't mean like I'm such a great giver, I give, but it's just my natural default of the more I give, the more like I'm rewarded by it.
You feel good.
I feel really good.
I get that.
And then I'm like, oh wow, I really haven't given to myself at all. So self-love, compassion, it's like the oldest thing that people are like, you have to love yourself first. But it's so true.
That is like such a thing that is said all the time, and I've heard it too. And yes, I love myself. Like there's no way I haven't loved myself in my life, but I've found that it's like love yourself enough for me it's been boundaries.
Yeah.
But for some others it's vulnerability.
Yeah. I'm kicking them off now.
Yeah, let's kick them off. I agree, because it's like we're deep in this super comfortable chair, but I feel like we're gonna get into it now.
I know I'm like sweating on the inside.
I know we're gonna keep my hair in front, but now it's coming back. I really need to. Yeah. You said judgments too, and that's something that I was watching a video the other day. I think it was a Teal Swan video. Do you ever watch her on?
Yeah,
I watch YouTube
so
videos all the time, and it was about judgment and how it was like making a list of the things that you judge and then recognizing that you deny them in yourself. Ooh, what are you judging people?
That's good. Ooh, I mean, it's always a reflection, right? So, I don't know. I think I have a work hard mentality. So I expect a lot from people. And if they're, I'm pretty bad though. Like I have 22 employees. And so Jesus. Like, I'll call and be like, hey, so I just sent you this property so we could look for our studio. Send it over, like 15 minutes later. I'm like, so did the realtor get back? And they're like, oh, I haven't sent it yet. I'm like, well, why not?
So you judge lazy? Efficiency?
Yeah.
Speed?
But then here's my pattern it's like, I judge. I'm like, come on, efficiency, get to work, because that's what I would do. And then I feel guilty for then expecting too much. So then it's like I go into punishment mode for myself.
Kind of double whammy yourself, by the way.
Oh, I
double whammy yourself.
I am literally, it's the worst. I literally go like push, punish, push, punish. So that's what I'm working on right now.
What if you didn't punish yourself?
That's what I'm working on right now.
I mean, like one or the other, like start somewhere, right?
Totally. Yeah. I would actually be, I think, better by the non-punishing versus the expecting. Because in relationship, it's different. You want to not expect certain things, but in work, like there is an expectation.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's a great thing. So I do talk therapy too. I have to. Actually, I didn't do therapy until I did therapy back in the day. I used to be married, like nobody remembers that or knows that, but or thinks about that, but I was. And did a lot of talk therapy back in those days and then didn't do it for a long time and then got back into it. And it was that, love can be unconditional, but relationships have to have conditions.
Or conditions, yeah.
For boundaries, for taking care of yourself.
Wait, will you say that again?
That love can be unconditional, but relationships cannot.
That's
relationships are conditional.
Yes. Yeah. That's really good.
To take care of yourself and to
That
tell
hit
the
me.
other person how to take care of you.
Yeah, totally.
You say what you need.
Yeah.
So that can show up, obviously in romantic, it shows up the most,
Yeah.
right? But it shows up in the other ones too.
Yeah.
Clear boundaries and
Totally.
expectation levels for things. So
Is
that
that yours? Boundaries?
I never had any.
Yeah.
Ever. Because I'm a giver. Like
Yeah.
it comes from sort of the Cancer motherly nature, like
Yeah.
take care of. Like
Mhm.
I've just got a ton of Libra in me. So like
Yeah.
I'm just like, like making other people happy makes me happy.
Totally.
So it's
Yeah.
tricky because it's like such a fine line in
Mhm.
there. And I think a lot of people probably, feel this, whether or not, crap about astrology or not.
Mhm.
Taking care of someone feels good,
Yeah.
but you got to know where the edge is and where you start to lose yourself.
Yeah.
And, I don't know, maybe it's like do something for them 3 times in a row and then something
Yeah.
for you. I don't know. It
Yeah.
might have to be simple, but
Mhm.
for me, it was like being by myself for the first time in
Mhm.
100 years. And then writing down boundaries.
Yeah.
Writing them down. I was like, oh my God, boundaries, not literally a line in the sand. It's not like, don't cheat on me. It's like, oh, energetic exchanges.
Yeah.
It's like so much more nuanced.
Yeah. Oh, it totally is. And I find that it literally the same lesson shows up whether it's in friendship or relationship or work, all at the same time. So again, like a work situation. When COVID happened, I like opened up my home and we created a studio in the basement and
It was beautiful, by
and
the
it
way.
was, oh, thank you. And it was awesome. And I was like, yeah, come on over. And then I was like, oh my gosh, at one point I had so many people at my house constantly that like, I remember I wanted to like cry one day in my house and I felt like I had to be quiet in my own house to like express myself.
Wow.
And I was like, there's so many people. And then I realized, oh my gosh, I'm now liable if anything were to ever happen. And my brain doesn't go there because I immediately go, oh yeah, of course, let's open in my house. I have the space. Let's do this. Or it's your birthday. Do you want my house? Sure. Have a party. Like that's my gut. Like it just happens. And then I say it and then I'm like, ooh, can I take that back? Whoops. So the boundary thing for me, I have to think. I really have to think before I speak.
Yeah. Have you like found one that you're like, this is the one really important one that I'm not going to overlook anymore?
I think it's my health.
Really?
Yeah.
Like someone who's like so beautiful, so fit. Like I would never guess that.
No, it's my health. But the
And
health,
like physical or like
physical health,
and emotional?
but it's tied to the emotional. Like my adrenals are completely shot. Like I got my vitals taken almost a year ago and it was like I had a marker, not quite yet, but like a marker for an autoimmune because probably Epstein-Barr because just like exhaustion and
Yeah.
and I'm like, oh wow, it's because I don't know what to do if I'm not working. Like there's something so rewarding and it's not about the achievement at the end.
Mhm.
It's just I
have this too.
like I love to work like and I love to grow and so
Yeah.
and I love to create. So
Yeah.
there's like I feel so alive when I'm working, but
Yeah.
then I push it so far
Yeah.
that I crash. And then
Right.
and then I either get really sick for like a week and then I get back into it or not. So
Mhm.
so I think for me it's more just I need to take care of my health because I can feel if I don't, like my body will shut down. So
Getting more sensitive to it now.
Yeah.
You start to you can kind of like sense it, feel it.
yeah, I can
Notice it.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Is there a certain thing that you've implemented now with your team? Maybe it's like a plan for schedule wise or
Yeah, it's and
Time
that's
of
what
day.
and that's what I do too is like I love a schedule. So if I don't have one, I'm all over the place. Like free bird.
we get along. I love to plan too.
Yeah.
I'm a
So
future caster, not a past. I don't look to the
I
past.
don't look
I look to the
past
future. I think people are one or the other. Like
Yeah.
you either ruminate on the past
No.
and memories and have
Mm-mm.
sadness and guilt, or you
No.
look to the future and when things don't happen, you feel, you're attached. That's
Yeah.
the attachment wound,
Yeah,
right?
totally.
Like, oh, it didn't happen, and you keep
Yeah.
grasping for it,
Mhm.
and you don't know when to let that go and let something else come
Come
in.
in. Yeah. Yeah. I'm right in that place right now too. I kind of feel like I'm in this void place right now where like I'm quite
I got wine. Go get the
like,
wine.
I know. I'm like, I'm not stuck. I actually feel really free and like flowy, but I don't know where I'm going. Like, I have no clue.
Have you?
I have no idea.
That's actually, I'm going to say that's kind of amazing and fun. Have you fallen? I just had this. I was doing this meditation circle last night with Kimberly Snyder. I don't know if you know. And we were talking about sort of getting into the universal flow, like setting back and letting things come to you. Have you experienced those times where you can like vaguely make plans and vaguely start to sort of have intentions, but not be so locked and not be so attached to the way that they need to go, that you go, how did that just unfold better than you didn't even have to ask somebody to quit, to cancel their plans. They got canceled and you're like, well, that's perfect. And have you gotten there before?
It does this. I will say, and this is, I think my big lesson in life is the less I do, the more shit happens. Because the minute I relax and I take a breath and I actually take a break, I went to Maui in June because my friends had a house there, and I just was like, I just need to get away. I was going to go for 4 days. I stayed for a month. And the whole month that I was there, I still worked a little bit, but I surfed every morning. Got it like pummeled every day. It was the worst, but surfed every day. I made work fit into my life versus my life fit into my work. And all of a sudden, like everything just opened up work-wise. And it completely like, I did nothing. And I'm like, wait, this is going to be bad. Like, you want success? Do nothing. But it's true. Like, I know for me, I'm such an energetic being. And like, if I ask for something, it happens. I mean, that's everyone. But like, I know that that's my gift. Like, I'm such a visceral, energetic human that if I'm clouded with all the stuff and like the tasks and like the doing, which I've been doing a lot of recently, having, a business I'm a creative. So like doing that is weird, but just honestly, like doing nothing and feeling my best, everything just started pouring in. And so
such a great lesson.
Yeah. And so I'm like, I know it. I have to constantly remind myself because I love to work. So.
And you get attached. And so and you think if I work a little, like I'll just do a little bit more. It's, I've said it many times, but when I retired, I felt like it was the first time that I started to get a feel for the difference between quitting and letting go. Right? Like sometimes you just kind of got to let go of things a little bit.
Yeah.
And see
what was that process like for you?
I mean, it was like I had my major sponsor just decided to stop paying the bills at the beginning of a season before the season even started. And so then it was like, oh God, is the team going to tell me I can't drive now? But I still raced but finding another sponsor was necessary. So it was just a process that I was like, at first I was scared to be done. And I was like, oh, that felt good to me to actually be scared to be done. Cause I've actually, the truth is, and people find this kind of surprising, but I never really loved racing. I loved aspects of it that really kept me very into it. But like loving it itself, the racing, like I don't go do it. I don't need to go drive a car. I don't. So I just kind of really felt into that a little bit more and was like, maybe it's time. Maybe like it felt like it was hard, felt like it's so much effort. And I really, if I'm being honest, like there was such an energetic shift in me going on with all of my other interests with, everything from, the nature of reality to crystals to, raising my frequency, that I stopped resonating with it.
Your identity was shifting. Was it for so long.
It just didn't resonate anymore. I didn't feel good. Have you ever been in those environments where you just kind of like, you're there and everything seems fine. And all of a sudden you just kind of go like, I don't know. Like, it's just, I'm not feeling it. Like the people, the vibe, like, I don't know. You just grow out of it.
Yeah. I've been in it probably about 10 times in my life.
Wow.
I feel like I've had like 30 different lives, like growing up in Utah, growing up in England, having being on Dancing with the Stars, having a music career, having an acting career. Like I did so many different things that they were all identity shifts for me every single time.
Even like Dancing with the Stars seems like a long time ago when you started. I mean,
I was 18.
You were Dear Elio's partner.
I know.
And won.
But so those, I feel that. But I think that the identity of the attachment sometimes like I had to kind of discover what I even liked anymore because I was just so used to dancing and I was so used to singing and acting and like that was what I made up my mind I was going to do forever. That like I didn't know if I was really enjoying it. I just was doing it because it was comfortable. And so like I kind of realized I was like, am I just putting myself in an emotional home that's actually comfortable but actually not really fulfilling my soul purpose, but my, whether it's my ego purpose or whatever, but I still love, like, I love it because it's familiar.
Totally.
But I'm like, but is it
what do you do
I
for
love?
fun? What do you do for fun?
Well,
I don't know. Talk about it on the show, or
yeah, no, I mean, that's actually a whole other story too. No, try to find myself what I like, you know, like I didn't know what I liked because I was so future of what I thought should be that I would just go for it and be that, create who I am versus be who I am.
It's like you didn't take enough time maybe to really like, I don't know. You're just such an easy manifester that it all started rolling out really quick, it sounds like. Everything you think of, it rolls out really quick and then you're in it and you don't really have a chance to sort of assess early enough or even along the way because it keeps going. Everything you do turns to gold that like you're like, whoa, and this is what I am now.
Kind of, yeah. Like I remember when I was starting my music, I wanted to be a singer. So I was like, I'm going to be a singer. And then I was doing country music and I was like, I love country music, but like, I want to dance and sing. Like, I don't want to play and sing. And so like it was, and it was so different that I was like, this isn't actually really what I want to do, but I said I wanted that. And so it happened. All right. So yeah. So for me, I'm like, I have to be very careful with my words because like,
exactly.
Happens.
That's amazing. And it's such a rare thing. It's a blessing and a curse in a way. So let's play a little game. So I've never done this before, but I just was thinking to myself, like, maybe this is like the ultimate sort of like, or this is a way of testing or checking.
Yeah.
So what if somebody said you could never sing again?
Ooh.
There's going to be a lot of these questions. So just, go with your gut.
You know, I think it would be really hard.
All right. What if I told you that you could never journal again?
I would be okay with that. Okay. Like versus singing, I could do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
What if I told you that you could never dance again?
Well, first of all, when you said sing or dance, I was like, well, that could never happen because like I just have to. I wouldn't do it for other people. I would do it for myself. So I could actually not sing or dance for the world or for people, but I would have to do it.
Yeah, no, this is alone. Like if you were like alone, this is your like weekend. Like if I told you like the rest of your life, like it doesn't matter if you're on TV for it or not. Like you can never sing again.
Oh, that was just heartbreaking.
Okay. You can never dance again.
Heartbreaking.
Okay. You can never journal again.
I'd be okay with that.
Okay. You could never, energetically, you're staying here. You can't grow. There's no more lessons to be learned.
I would die.
That's a big one then.
Yeah.
That's a really big one.
Yeah.
You can never drink again.
Totally fine.
Yeah. I'd fail there.
I was like, totally fine. Like, I like what I feel like in the morning when I don't drink, but I do love.
Throw a funny one in. What else? You could never. You couldn't have more than one job.
Ooh, that's a tough one.
Gotta pick one. Like, could you live that way?
Ooh. I don't know if I could. That would be hard for me because I love to create. I found recently that the reason why I love acting or being on tour or a TV show is because they're projects. They're bite size. It's like you focus for 3 to 6 months. You do a project. It's like complete and then you can move on to another one. It's still in the same vein, but it's something new.
Okay, then a twist on that is that you could never create. You have to pick one job that you have right now.
Okay.
Or actually, how about you just don't get to pick you don't get to dream up new jobs. Everything that you've started is the rest of your life now. No more new jobs. No more new creative ventures.
Interesting.
Could you stick with what you've got right now? Would you be okay?
I think that's probably what I should do, actually.
So, okay.
Because I would love to be able to focus in on that
Okay.
and like expand on what's already my creative gift versus adding stuff that doesn't really matter.
I think that, I mean, that seemed really obvious to me that the growth is the most important element of anything and everything, and that your soul yearns to continue to evolve and grow.
Yeah.
And that it just seems like you need to dive into what you've got right now and expand it. Like, you know, help wake people up with them.
Yeah. Well, actually, that's been over the last 3 years when I started Kinergy, when I really honed in my production company, I realized everything was so siloed before and so compartmentalized that they were all different brands and things and it didn't really feel complete. And now I'm like, oh, everything has a through line now: transformation, identity, and self-discovery.
Wow.
And it can be in film, it can be in television, it can be in dance, it can be in Kinergy, it can be in my music. Everything has that that through line. So it feels like one now. It all went from this to like, woo.
When Kinergy came together, would you say?
Yeah,
was that kind of when
Kinergy was like the manifestation of like what I can give to others, but really what I was going through. Like what I needed for me to be able to find that through line of like who I am in everything that I do.
Were you practicing sort of a variation of Kinergy the way that you would teach it now for yourself? Like how was it born?
Much more woo-woo than what I teach.
Oh, I want to do the woo-woo version with you.
The woo-woo version.
You kind of want to do alone, don't you?
I'm cool doing it with people because I love people. But I think the whole point of Kinergy was to create something that was accessible for people who need that bridge, that it's too woo-woo, you know, and that are a little bit more on the science side of things or a little bit more structured. I call it 3D, 4D, or 5D. And so I'm like, we're really like crushing, like trying to get people in the 3D world to get them kind of to the 5D, but like you can't just give them 5D.
Kinergy's 4.
Kinergy's like 4, but we're like trying to bring those people in while not alienating anybody else. So
beautiful.
Yeah. And then it's like once you get it and you're like, what now I want to know more, then offering more workshops and to dive deeper.
Is that something that's available yet?
January.
Oh.
Yeah. So
we'll get there. Hang on. I want to know about that. Yeah. Okay. But Kinergy to me, like it's, you said it. It just like, it packed all of the elements into one, but it was a personal practice.
Yes.
Generally first. And so like, do you remember like when you first did something that was sort of the essence of Kinergy for yourself?
I mean, let's see I think I've always been doing it. And I think that that's why this feels more like my soul's purpose versus my expression, you know, and like my creativity. Not that they're different, but one is like more self-fulfilling and one is for the world or others or whatever is outside of myself and the contribution. And so when I look back at my through line, like I've always danced more freely than other kids in my classes or when I would train or when I would compete. I was never the best dancer, like the most technical. I didn't have like, that's not why I won. I won because I was magnetic and free and expressed and I made people feel something versus just what they were looking at was right.
Because you were feeling it.
Because I felt it.
It's like the end of Black Swan.
Yeah.
And she gets really into it. Like, she becomes it. Like, she's feeling it. And that resonates.
Yes. So I think for me, it was just like when you can kind of just surrender your mind to your body and just completely open up to like, there is no right or wrong. There is no good or bad. It's you. Then that's just what Kinergy's about. And then you add in technicalities to just expand it, like boundaries. Like you kind of do need boundaries in a framework to maximize the explosion, because otherwise it'll just go everywhere. To have a container to kind of hold it in, creates even more of a vortex. I feel like I can say all this with you.
Yeah.
It like holds it and builds all that energy. Whereas if you don't have structure, like the breath work for Kinergy or the visualization through the elements, that helps you surrender your mind. So you're visualizing, you're breathing, and then you have a certain form of structure, but it's not about that. It's just to have the framework so that you can like blow up basically and like raise your own vibration and energy within yourself.
The container being the structure, or essentially just saying for this hour or for this half hour?
Yeah, for this,
all of that,
for this 40 minutes.
Yeah,
there's movement, there's breath, and then there's imagination. Those are the 3 pillars that give you that structure in that container. But you can express yourself in any regard. So whether it's your life force energy, your emotional field, your expression, whatever you want to do in that moment.
Where do you think that we as humans are going to have the most amount of growth? I'm asking a kind of broad question, but I have some of my own perspectives on it, but maybe I'll back up and say I'm learning the value through doing Kinergy and recognizing just how, like, even something simple for me, like it was fun to do something that was
out of your
I'm
comfort
so
zone.
structured, and I'm like, do 25 reps of this, and then 15 of that, and then 5 of that, and then 5 rounds of it, and it's like, and you're on a clock, and it was like, just move, and you're like, well, that was fun.
I do?
Okay, I'm so glad I'm alone right now.
Yeah.
But also like the non-structure, or just sort of, but then also through over time too, since I've done that, I've done a lot more, whether it's even body work with audible sounds, so kind of like feels somatic a little bit. But yeah, just adding voice, adding intention, movement. There's a lot there. And so, you know, for me, I've had a lot of growth that comes from feeling like when I do those things, I take an emotion that's trapped somewhere in the body.
Yes.
And I give it a door.
Yeah. 100%.
And then it flows out, and then all of a sudden I'm crying at the end.
That's
and I'm
exactly
like,
what it is.
My dad, he was so mean. You know, whatever it is. Or I didn't realize that I just need to choose myself.
Yeah, I know. It's so true though. But that's what it is. And I don't think people give themselves permission enough to let go or to stop holding it together. And by the way, I'm the biggest culprit of that. I'm so responsible. I hold everything together. I make sure I show up on time, except for today. You know, like certain things
You're
that
8
I
minutes
do.
late. It's LA.
But the things that I'm so used to holding together. And so we all do that though. Like if we're not used to being like, whoa, and actually making a sound, that is the most uncomfortable, awkward thing to do. But nobody cares.
Yeah.
And like, I look at like culturally and like historically, when we look at like tribes and communities, I mean, there's no shame. There's sounds and music and dancing and being naked. And I'm not, telling people to be naked. Please don't quote me there. But there's a freedom. But there's a freedom.
Take the fig leaf off.
I know. But there is, like, kids, the same thing. Like, they're not worried if they're doing something right or wrong. They're just being, and they're expressing themselves. And then they learn. And they're figuring out what life is. Yeah. But we've completely started adulting to where we're, like, shutting down maybe what our instinct wants to do. And then we're, like, completely limiting ourselves to what's possible. So that's, to me, as silly as it is, but your question of like, where do you think the biggest growth for humans is learning about themselves. Like, what is it that I want? How do I feel free within myself so that I can explore and find that out? And then like you find your tribe and your people, and like all of a sudden you don't have to go looking. All of a sudden, like, your circle just gets bigger and people start coming into your circle. And it's like, oh, I have my people. I've always had my people. I didn't meet them yet, like, so I don't know. I feel like I went to Davos this last year, and it was like for the World Economic Forum, and everybody's talking about sustainability and the world and how to save the planet and economics and all this stuff. And I'm like, so none of this is going to work unless you actually come from the inside out. Like if we're just trying to go from the outside in, trying to fix problems, like none of this is going to work. Like you have to actually find like a belief in yourself that you actually care. And that's something that you want to do. And you can't fix everything. So find something that you're excited about, that you're passionate about, and come from that place versus this place.
If, like you said, if we can just look at ourselves and go, if I just change me, but if everyone did that now, instead, if I just change me, then, and I fix me, I heal me.
Yeah.
I fill in those gaps of judgments that are, exposing something I deny myself. They're filling in the gaps of, traumas that I, have kept hold of that I then project because someone pokes at my wound.
Yeah.
Like if I can fix and fill in all this brokenness inside of me, and then you are changing the world more than if you just went and screamed at the top of a mountain where everyone's down at the bottom going, make sure you recycle. Like, I mean, it might not be popular for saying it, but I think there are just so many things that exist that are just distraction. They're just, I don't know. I don't know what's going on under the surface. I don't know what's going on really out there. I don't know who's really in control. I don't know what shit's going on, but I know that there's so much going on that just feels like distraction. Whether it's politics or some shows or like there's stuff that just feels to me like I'm like, really? Like, is that what we're spending our time and money and effort and energy on when you could be waking up and doing morning pages like you encourage people to do, and journaling and writing and, expressing yourself and getting in touch with yourself emotionally and encouraging people to look within. Like that's Kinergy, is to go like, I want to give you this container to open your heart.
Completely. That's honestly really what it is. Like people are like, oh, it's a dance workout. I'm like, no. It's like a transformation / like self-discovery / like delayering of all the conditioning and the shit that we've built up. And it's not our fault. Like it's society, it's parents, it's religion, it's culture, it's social media, it's everything. And it's like, how do I actually just get to that place where I trust myself? And then when that happens, like you shift, and then your environment shifts, the people around you start shifting. And then, it's like COVID. It's like 1 in 3 people. But with like healing. And then once that happens, then people start having empathy and like a real care for simplicity, and, and like they can actually look at the world around them and be like, oh my gosh, I actually care about that tree. Whereas I'm so bogged with all of my own suffering. I call it suffering instead of suffering.
That's a great word. That's a great word.
But instead of all my own suffering, I can actually notice and see the plants. Like nobody can even see the planet right now because we're in our own shit. And our relationships are maybe surfaced because everybody's afraid of being rejected, and and it's like, it breaks my heart, especially again, because I feel like you go through cycles. Like last year, I was like clear as a freaking whatever, something that's clear.
Clear quartz.
Just clear quartz. I was so clear. And then I lost my girls, and then that suffering hit in, and that grief. And then I went through separation, and then like I isolate when I'm feeling bad. So then I felt a loss from family and friends, and so that clarity that I had, and this is my punisher, I would punish myself for not being there again, but I'm like, no, this is part of it. It's another cycle. It's another layer of like, I've never felt this kind of grief before. And now I can see someone and actually have a conversation with them and listen and talk versus everything's all great and amazing, but not sit in the shit,
You're fun to watch. You got tons of energy. And I'm like, there's no way you're that happy all the time.
But what's funny is I thought I was.
Yeah. I totally believe you.
It was real for me in that moment because that's all I knew. And that's what I'm saying is like, I lived like this, and was I positive? Like,
yeah.
And that got me so far, but that's why I'm worried about my health, because I'm so tired. I'm literally so tired. I'm learning. I'm like, my body is so tired. My mind is so tired because I was literally trying to fit in this like tiny little like perfect box of I have to always stay positive. I have to make sure everybody else is good, you know? And then it started opening and I was like, nobody's going to like me. My personality is gone. Like I am boring. But I'm like, oh, I'm just calm. And I actually have
it's better. It's more
range.
Relatable. It's more relatable. I resonate with you,
yeah.
and I felt like I don't resonate with that. Like,
yeah,
I mean,
totally.
I followed you for a reason a long time ago.
Yeah.
At that vulnerability, it's so, I mean, it's such a common word now, but it's true. It's like, it's the key.
Yeah, I agree.
How are you really feeling? Like when I asked them, like, how are you? And they're like, oh, I'm fine. I'm like, no. I asked how you are.
Yeah. And it's autopilot for most humans, you know, like we're fine. My sister said it to me today. I was like, you are so lying. And she's like, I just can't talk right now. I was like, well, why don't you just say that then? Like, stop saying you're fine because you're not.
That's a great lesson because you said I really was happy then. And so it's okay if you feel like you're there and it's okay to then break down because new level, new devil. Like you wanted to go deeper. Your soul was calling your heart to expand and break open. And it finally, like, you know, the like they say, you know, the whisper becomes a scream, becomes an earthquake. Like it just, you are so focused. You're such a hard worker. You're such a manifester and you have such an incredible team around you. Obviously you just keep going. And like it took an earthquake.
It did. And it was a heartbreaking one. And I had them for 11 and 8 years. I would have nightmares about how they died, and they died that same way.
When you think about, like, I don't know, you know, you get these intuitions, you get these thoughts, and then let's say it happens. And I've had the, like, where I'm thinking like this is like worst case scenario.
Yeah.
And then it happens. I really wonder, am I that intuitive?
Or did I create it? Yeah, totally.
What do you think?
I mean, it's two things. Oh my gosh, I'm about to make a race car reference.
Good stuff.
When the race car driver is looking at the wall, they're gonna hit the wall.
That's exactly right.
So yeah,
I'm supposed to make you feel good. You're making me feel good. So what's I mean, like we've talked about, I feel like in general, this sort of general idea, but what have you identified as your purpose?
My purpose is to continuing like discovering who I am, growing so that I can be an inspiration and not to be an inspiration, but I can inspire or emulate or radiate what's possible for others inside of themselves. Because I think I do feel like I'm an entertainer for a reason. Like I have something about me that people like to watch. So I have a responsibility to make sure that what I'm doing is intentioned, and it's not that it's not going to be pure all the time, but that it's coming from a pure place, and that like still ups and downs and things are going to happen, but that I'm doing, you know, the best that I can in my pursuit of happiness and my pursuit of freedom and my pursuit of, I don't know, just expression. And I really do believe that we're mirrors and everyone sees themselves in each other. And you see the great, you see the shadow side, you see all the different things. And so I want to be as true and authentic and pure as I can be so that that person can see themselves as well. And I can then see myself in you. And like, we can just, I don't know, we can just help each other grow. I just want to love everybody, basically. I just want to love on everyone and just, and just.
You're understanding that power of loving yourself so that you can.
Yeah.
So that there isn't judgment anymore.
Exactly.
So you fill in those gaps.
Yeah. And I think like, I'm finding this new sense of simplicity. Like, trust me, like I want a lot of money because I want to share it. I want to do things. I want to play. I want to do all those things. But I was looking out my bedroom window the other day, and like when I built the house, I see the Hollywood sign. It was such like a moment for me. And I remember looking at it kind of at the beginning of COVID, and I was looking at it and I was like, none of this is real. I was like, what is this? And like that Hollywood side, like what? And then I like got really deep with it, and I was like looking behind it, and I was like, that's just held up by stilts, and it's on a dirt mountain. And I was like, none of this is real. What am I doing here? And I was like, I don't know if I belong here. And then I went into this whole like kind of out of body experience where I was like, what is my purpose of my life? Like, and then I realized, oh, I can still do everything that I'm doing, but I don't have to put so much importance on it. Like even Kinergy, like I put so much importance on it because I was like, this is helping people, this is healing people. And then I was like, whoa, you're losing the purity of like, if it does, it does. Great.
Right.
If it doesn't, it doesn't.
That's that beautiful analogy of like, you know, when you want something so badly, knowing that you're holding, if you want it so badly and you're grasping and thinking, you're also holding an energetic cord to it that is the fear it won't happen. And since the universe can't really tell the difference between the fear and like it's not gonna happen to I want it to it's not gonna happen, I want it, it's not gonna happen. And then all it does is just sit there and goes like just and it doesn't actually accelerate.
What's the right one or the wrong one. Right. It just is both there. Yeah.
Right.
It's the same kind of energy. In fact, I was really pushed and drawn by negative charge energy. And that's pretty much how I got successful. By pushing,
start the interview all over again.
You know, but being like this, watch me. And I got really successful because of that negative spiral.
You know what though? It all led you to here.
Completely.
And it's all part of your path, all part of the path, all part of like the lessons learned. And
thank goodness I
be grateful.
Found it now at 30, you know, I'm 32, but at 30 instead of at 60, you know?
Yeah. Take the lessons when and wherever they come and look back in gratitude. And, you know, it's like when someone says, oh, you've changed, like, what would you say to them?
Thank you. Yeah.
Thanks everybody for listening to the Pretty Intense podcast today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you like what you heard today and you want to hear more, please click on the subscribe button.